Hello, hello. This is podcast Miss Spanish Pitch. Miss Spanish Pitch. Today we're featuring Cristóbal Alonso, el Patrón, founder of Startup Wise Guys. So this is a podcast, is another chapter of me Ukrainian pitch, моя инновация Ukrainian pitch, the previous one. I was producing since 2020. And it was about Ukrainian tech ecosystem. And our intention was to show the world the thriving Ukrainian tech ecosystem, to introduce investors, startups, technologies to the world in English. And this is really important to be understood. And this podcast, Miss Spanish Pitch, is my way to thank Spain for all support to Ukraine, and also my intention to show this beautiful country as a country of opportunities. And I'm very happy to greet you here in this very first episode. We're integrating this Miss Spanish Pitch with Startup Wise Guys and Cristóbal Alonso. Hola.
Hola, how are you?
All good, thank you so much. Thank you. So the task is really challenging because we need to insert in 30 minutes very summary of what's going on in Spain, what's stake of Startup Wise Guys in this. But I would like to start this way. So you will listen to many pitches. I mean, thousands, dozens of thousands, I guess. And let's start with your pitch. What's the problem?
The problem is that most investors in early stage, in a very early stage, they don't deliver anything else but money.
What's the solution?
The solution is to have somebody who understands founders, who puts themselves on the founders, and has sufficient programs and experience to actually target them one by one, but having the scale to do it on a massive manner.
What the technology and unique proposition from Startup Wise Guys and Patrón, how do you see it differently?
I don't think we have technology, and I think it's one of the things that we should be adding more and more technology. I think the main proposition is we are founders ourselves. We have been working for over 1,000 founders, and we have this very international mindset, but at the same time global scale. And I think that makes a big difference compared with others. And then the network effect that you have with founders, with other investors, with VCs, and the power of the brand. At the end of the day, 12 years investing on the branding.
When I'm talking about Startup Wise Guys, I'm saying that this is pan-European accelerator, but this is more than pan-European. You're a global one. And but for 2025, your market.
I think we want to focus more and more in EU founders, I would say, but with a global mindset. So that doesn't mean that by EU founders they cannot go out of Europe, but I would say 80% of our investments should be EU founders going forward.
Your competitors?
Brand-wise, which I think is the most relevant, is probably Techstars, Y Combinator. I would say as competitors, right? But I see that in early stage is more and more cooperation versus looking at people as competitors. Because right now we're battling with VCs in early stage, with angel investors. So you need to get the good deals by being good yourself.
Your operation plan for 2025-26?
Go back to being able to invest 100 investments per year, which is something we did in 2022. Very focused on our verticals, and I will not list them, but we can talk about it afterwards because I think we are very clear on what are the key verticals at the moment. And go back more to make founder bets. And for that, we need sufficient assets under management, to put sufficient management so the founders can build the companies. I think our tickets were too small for that, but if our ticket can increase to 150 to 100,000, I want to go back to founder bets. I think that's what we are really good.
Do you have an exit strategy?
We have an objective. I wouldn't say an exit strategy. We want to get to the company be worth 100 million euros between the combination of the portfolio value on carry and the revenues that we generate. That was always the objective, right? There probably do some secondary, but I don't think we want to exit ourselves, but we want to cash part of the effort over 12 years that we have been doing it. So we say 2028, 2029, we should be 100 million company value.
Impressive. And the team?
The team, I think, I like to look at the team on a greater level, which is the network, right? I think we have amazing people right now in the team. both at the GP level that have been working together for years, new additions into the team. We have people, Azara, we have, Alex in portfolio. But I think it's people who has worked for us, people who could be working for us, tons of a portfolio. We had some of our best hires through some of the founders who didn't make it. And then we saw that they're still with good founders. Very international, although funny enough, we have more and more people based in Spain. But I think it's just happening. It's nothing that is proactive. But I think the key thing is to be able to have 30, 40 top people in the future, extremely well paid, extremely motivated, extremely long term, and then a huge network of people around us that we can leverage their expertise. And again, that's the power of what we call the Startup Wise Guys family.
Back to 2012, when it all started, did you have a pivot? I mean, did you change many things, or when did you understand it's necessary? And if you have, if you can share these milestones.
Yeah, I will say we never really pivot. I think there was a very initial accelerator focus, let's say. Very soon we went into B2B. So I think that was probably within the second batch. So I think we always wanted to be international. So nothing new there, but it was very different because most accelerators were very local. We very early focused on B2B, and then it was a matter of, we were always not just Estonian. We have Baltics, we have Ukrainian startups, we have Belarusian startups, we have Turkish startups. I think we just started going to more greater Western or Southern Europe countries on the move. We started to B2B SaaS, which we still do, but then we added more verticals. So again, we wanted to be vertical focused, so B2B SaaS, then we got fintech, then we got cyber, then we got sustainability, and we keep adding more to that. So I think maybe the main difference was like when I came on board as a CEO in 2015-16, we were very clear that there will only be 4 or 5 dominant brands in this accelerator early stage investors that will have global access to the best talent. The rest we just get whatever is left. So we very clearly said we want to be one of those top 5. Again, it was Y Combinator, Techstars, 500 at that time also. And it was in that direction, right? And I think the biggest thing is right now, we see ourselves more as an early stage. We want to be the dominant pre-seed investor in Europe with programs. Might be acceleration, might be early stage, whatever it is. But we want to be the dominant pre-seed investor in Europe.
And it's time to name those verticals.
Cybersecurity, defense, robotics. I think that's a triangle. Then SaaS, but obviously SaaS way more dominated with AI solutions going forward. Financial services, I believe, with the whole AI moment, will get a second revival. Particularly in Spain, actually, the fintech has been the biggest investment vertical. I would say those are the main ones, but without saying no to other particular verticals. PropTech, right now we have a fund focused on PropTech and sustainability, so construction and PropTech, but very focused on sustainability. That's very important. And if we have new GPs coming with new verticals, we incorporate them. But you need to have local or regional expertise, and you have to have vertical expertise if you want to have the best founders coming and working with you.
And talking about mentality of managing very international team and also dealing with very international different mindset founders, can you describe how this helps to understand the international landscape and also to operate very efficiently in a new geopolitical agenda?
We were always remote based, remote first, let's call it this way. And in fact, it was one of the big attractions to get top talent from abroad, which is when accelerators were more location based, you could come, work 3 months in the accelerator, but then you work remotely wherever you are, right? And in fact, that's how we got the first people from Ukraine, because it was a great proposition for them to do this, for example. So when COVID came, we were very much used to work online, right? So that change, that shift into hybrid mode that everybody did was natural for us. And then we have never looked back to that. So I think that helps a lot. I think the international mindset helps on don't making assumptions, trying to have a richness. So people call it diversity and talks about gender a lot. And for me, diversity is way more than that, right? Diversity is age, diversity is different cultures, apart from gender. And I think having that diversity, if you're able to listen as a leader, I think it helps dramatically in making decisions. And at the same time, you have so many nationalities that when talking to founders from that nationality, you always have also the local view on, I think you guys are misreading what they're really saying. So I think you need to have both combinations, but it comes with the capacity to listen. And I think the capacity to listen sometimes is jeopardized in crisis moments. And I think that's my job, let's say, to be able to be humble enough to listen more and to understand also to be make mistakes. And I kind of joke that when I became 50, I have to make my Cristóbal 5.0 version, which will be improving the 4.0 version. And I'm working on it. I'm on my own transformation at the moment.
And what is gonna be? How do you see it?
I'm trying to figure out where do I add the most value and what gets me also excited, right? So I would say, I was traveling a lot, for example, and now I said maybe I need to travel less or travel differently and use that energy that is there in a different way. Second one I'm trying to understand is I love to work with the startups, but I have to admit that after seeing, 10,000 pitches and doing 500 investments, you start getting to a meeting, another of doing the same thing that I saw before, right? And that's not fair for the startup. So, but I can still probably add a lot of value after the team decides to invest on them, on doing marketing engineering sprints or sitting with the ones with trouble or working with the portfolio. So I'm trying to figure out how do personally work with the startups, not lose the touch to be there, but also probably not being so much on the first part of the investment process because I don't think I have the positive energy that I had in the past. And there is people in my team who does it, right? And I think that needs to be evaluated. And I think secondly is how do I help more on the institutional relationships, both LPs, investors, partnerships, opportunities. And the third one will be dedicating more time to, and you've seen it a bit in action, about the vision of Europe, really being one of the vocal voices in the continent about, I believe, I'm optimist, but also we need to change dramatically and get our hands dirty if we want to have a future as a continent. And I think I have the privilege to be heard, and I think I like to talk about it, and I'm willing to fight for that vision to become a reality.
I really want to thank you for the speech. I've been to Investor Bilbao Summit by Startup Wise Guys a couple of weeks before, and your speech was impressive. I mean, I'm totally on your side of making Europe really strong and rely on experience and gained by blood by my country. As a Ukrainian, I cannot ask you, how did war in Ukraine, happening already 11 years, but 3 years in a very hot phase, affected your business and also your mindset and your decisions you're taking for a long-term perspective?
I think it was present. I think we were talking before, and I mentioned with some of my colleagues, and you also know very well, that somehow I was always puzzled when I was going to Ukraine post-2014, how everybody wanted to leave the country. I was like, man, you should be now coming tough as a nation. So unfortunately, it took the second invasion, and as you said, way more blood, unfortunately, to people to come together, right? It's interesting to read yesterday how the Macron and the UK Prime Minister sees the current Trump behavior as an opportunity. And I do see it again, the same thing that I saw the war as an opportunity for Ukraine to come together, for Europeans to get the shit together, for the Finnish to finally wanted to join NATO, which I think actually is an extremely necessary nation, the way they think, the proximity to Russia, the military approach, which is now needed. I think the idea is that the biggest change is that we need to invest in defense, but investing in defense has to be an innovation opportunity. And I was reading a report that I think was done by, Mark Adresen was talking about it, said, there is 3 things happening. You're economically very strong because you innovate a lot, and then you invest a lot in defense to continue to maintain your privileged position, and you can do that because you actually make a lot of money. And it's these 3 pillars that you need to keep doing it, right? And the problem is that Europeans just lately stop at we're very strong economically, and we only innovated in very particular sectors, mainly non-tech sectors, pharmacy, bio, etc. And I think we just need to change. And I think we need to see that investing in defense. And today, they just approved an 800 billion package. Like this morning, Ursula came out and said it's approving. But it's not only just the package of that one. It's how do we change the rules of procurement? How do we do the communication? How do we actually take out of the public sphere that investing in defense is to kill more people, but it's actually to avoid wars. But you need to be strong to be able to have something to say.
Exactly. And what's your opinion? What's your take on 28th regime, this European single market? I mean, does that seem to you natural and also logical?
Whatever we can do to operate more as a single market will always be beneficial. I don't know how much is really going to happen. I think there is a lot of barriers of history, of bureaucracy, of, we're just not talking about countries, we're talking about regions, we're talking about municipalities. There is 4 layers of government, Europe, countries, regions, municipalities. It's extremely difficult to break some of those, right? But I think, and again, it's not comparing with the US, but I think the US has in that sense a better model, because people think, this one single country. No, there's states. States have a huge amount of power in legislation also. So they have their 50 countries, right? But I think we need to see, we need to become more efficient at the end of the day, right? And I think that comes mostly by having, ideally, more people at the EU level that are practitioners, not just politicians, or to get the best professionals that want to become politicians, right? But I think whatever we can do into having one voice into how do we regulate entrepreneurship, fiscal policies related to capital gains, capital investments, IP rules, registrations of companies. The more we can do in that sense that comes to be united, or at least to be transparent, even not even united, just very transparent, very efficient, it's fine. So if all the countries have their own thing, but everybody can in 24 hours open a company and open a bank account, I don't care if it's united or not, it's efficient, right? And I think that's what we need to aim. And I think there is enough good proofs to copy with pride. So, hey, this is a very well done in Estonia, do it that way. This is very well done in the Netherlands, do it that way. I don't think we need to reinvent much wheels. We just need to be humble. Say, hey, somebody does very well, just copy them and do it the same way, right? And there is enough places in Europe where things are done in a very efficient manner.
Startup Voice Guys was founded in Estonia, in Tallinn. And then it happened, then you moved with all your core team to Spain, back to Spain. Your origin from Spain, but what was your logic back to then?
I wouldn't put it that way. I think we have still some of the GPs, legal, finance is still in Estonia, so I don't think we have moved to Spain. We do have a much bigger presence in Spain as a market. And as I said, it just happened that many of us are living today in Málaga, not even in Spain, in the same place. The first move was the war. So when the war started, we needed to have a place. And many people in the team, many people in the portfolio didn't feel comfortable going to Estonia because it was too close still to Russia, right? I said, where can we go? We said, what do you think about Spain? Oh, that looks good. That sounds good. That is not expensive. That makes sense. So I think that was the model. We have moved before to Italy and having very strong operations in Italy. So I think we have also lost the fear of being operating in a bigger market. But we also like it to go to a bigger market that was a bit underdeveloped, underserved. Spain is a bit better served than Italy, but still very underdeveloped. I think we are 5x in terms of investment below Netherlands, 20x below the UK. So we still actually can have way more investment. So, and I think the good thing about Spain is that and specifically into Malaga, is that attracting international talent to live in Malaga is easy. They said, yeah, of course, I want to live there. Why not? And I think I don't want to become a Spanish company, but I'm super happy if we can have an impact in the country that I was born, and if we can attract top talent and change the mentality here of how we run international companies. And I think That's the one thing that I am proud, which is people see how we culturally run the company, our business culture, and said it's very different from what we have in Spain. And that's what I want to be one of the things that we actually bring to the ecosystem is a different way to run.
Would it be fair to tell that this is your way to thank Spain and to pay it back, like to your home? I mean, to bring your international expertise, and what's going to be your contribution of El Patrón, Startup Wise Guys, after all this international experience, back to Spain? Because definitely it's the great country, a lot of opportunities, good balance of life, work, and also life here is beautiful. But economically and also with the mindset, I mean, there are a lot of things not to be changed. Maybe we don't need to change it, but still, what would you contribute and say and do differently?
I don't see it as a give back to Spain, to tell you the truth. I'm looking right now into maybe 3 dimensions because we're also doing a lot of things in Bilbao, and I'm super thankful about the way the Vizcaya government actually operates, and I think it's an example of how many governments should operate in Spain and actually in Europe. But to me, I'm looking at 2 things, Europe and Málaga. So those are the 2 places where I'm focusing my axis of impact, let's say, right? So locally or in the region, I want that to become one of the biggest hubs and most innovative hubs in Europe. Again, we have already committed to do the same thing in Bilbao, which we are in our way to do it. And then I want to change Europe. And of course, Spain is part of Europe. But I want Spain to become a much more vocal and important pillar of innovation in Europe, but specific things, passion, energy, joy of life. And when I was in the Baltics, that's what I was trying to bring part of that joy of life to people through different things. But I think, again, it's the combination of cultures in Europe, is that natural diversity that we have that is our superpower. And I think we need to recognize it. So I don't want to make Startup Wise Guys more Spanish. I want to make the whole of Europe recognize the diversity superpower, and we can create amazing hubs wherever we are.
Just for the very first listeners of the podcast, Mi Spanish Pitch, main hubs, tech hubs of Spain. So Malaga, you are in, I mean, definitely. Madrid, we're in.
It's Madrid and Barcelona. That first and foremost, if you look at any report, I would say 80% of the activity is Madrid and Barcelona. Then distant third is Valencia, which I think the impact of Lanzadera is there, even if I think it's not what it has happened, but it has had a big impact. And then everything else is distant to that. So Bilbao is doing great things. Malaga has great potential. And I will say those are the hubs. Right? Is there things happening in Sevilla? Of course. Is there things happening in Asturias or in Galicia? Yes, but I said hubs right now is basically Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia is established. We'll see where it goes. Bilbao and Málaga has potential, but again, it's not a competition against each other, because I think that's why people say, I want to be bigger than Valencia. Why? I think, again, I always say from Málaga, you need to look about, again, what we tell the startups, how can you be different, right? What can you, and in Málaga you can be the most international ecosystem in Spain because of the way you attract basically digital nomads, the communication, the weather. So that's probably where we can be very different. Secondly, the talent is cheaper still because of the university, but we have a lot of raw talent in Andalusian universities. Can we impact education there to see entrepreneurship as the way they want to go and not to go into public work, etc.? So I would say, but again, Madrid and Barcelona is 80% of the activity today, and probably 95% of the funding hubs, even if more and more the VCs have no issue investing in Huelva, so VCs will invest anywhere in Spain, no matter where they're based. But where they are based physically today mostly is Madrid, Barcelona, and a tiny bit in Valencia. Maybe people says that Germany now lives in Mallorca, that the biggest CEOs, even in Germany, everybody's living in Mallorca. So maybe Mallorca or Canary Islands, because of the way they are, they can have their own place in this ecosystem, maybe.
So there are two ways, direction and movement. I mean, for early stage founders in Spain, from Spanish companies, of course, you helping them to expand and to grow with the help of Startup Wise Guys. But also for international founders who would like to be based in Spain. And you say there is no competition, but in a way it is. I mean, the regional authorities from Canarias, they offer different conditions. Also from Melilla, we were talking about this also. Yep. From Bilbao, so they are competing for taxes, they're competing for establishing company there. I mean, if you were a Spanish startup, early stage startup in fintech, let's say, in 2025, where would you establish the company?
I will not establish it in Spain. I will live in Spain.
Here we go.
Yeah, but
Andorra,
today,
Estonia.
No, Estonia, for example, I will still think, I don't know, or Lithuania if I want a fintech license, or even Belgium has sometimes for fintech licenses. So if it was a fintech, and that's what we need to be very particular, right? It's about what do you need. If I have a cyber company, well, probably then I will keep it still in Spain because there might not be a big difference, right? But I will say that, as you said it very well, some of the provinces, some of the regions are trying to be offering better incentives to be there. But I think one thing that those regions are doing well is they don't want you. Estonia is doing differently. Estonians don't need you to move to Estonia. They're very happy just collecting taxes and providing infrastructure, right? Because it's a very small country and that's great. The regions want people, most of the people, Canary Islands might be different, I don't know the case too well, but the regions want you to move there. Not just, so they don't know in arbitrage giving you they want you to move there because they are very focused on creating employment, which I think is right. I think that's what governments should be doing, right? And the more competition is between them, the better. Because at the end of the day, what I would love to do is that all the regions offer something amazing, right? And then it's up to you to see what makes the most sense, right? Infrastructure plays a role. Like, I don't know, in Bilbao, the VAT tower is fantastic. And they have managed to basically put together all the talent in one place. For example, Málaga is lacking that. It's lacking the one place where things are happening physically. And I think today in this world, we still need that to happen. But I would say Spain has to still come a long way to be a great place to register the company. However, if you live in Spain, there is no harm of doing it and then look at opportunities. And then you need to understand, what is the regulation, in which sector you're playing in, how does IP play for you. So every vertical in that sense is very different.
Of course, I'm sure you're talking about this with Spanish authorities. I mean, you advised them to change something to make this Spanish tech ecosystem and especially establishing the company more sexy here and more logical and for bienestar de todos. What are you saying them?
Supporting private capital, not dictating private capital, right? So I would say the best thing the public work can do is, if private capital is being there, amplify it, right? So amplify everything that the private capital is doing in this sense. So if somebody is investing, then double the investment. And then try to make things as transparent, as efficient, as digital as possible. So anything should take less than 24 hours. So you have any process that lasts more than 24 hours, work on changing that and work on making it as digital as possible. Notaries are good for some things, but half of the things we do should not need notaries. And that's a huge waste of time, of paper, of money. And I think, again, notaries have a role to play, but I think they're overusing the current system for things that are usually useless. And then make sure that you only tax people when they make money. I'm all about taxes, but when they make money, not when they potentially make money, not when when they really. So again, if they are not being paid for a invoice, why are you charging them VAT? Why are you charging them for employee stock options if they haven't made the money yet? But when they make the money, and if they don't reinvest it into the system, but if they reinvest it, make them reinvest, right? Make taxes for people who invest in the sectors that you want in the way that you want. Something of an advantage, so motivate them.
As an autonomo, I would subscribe to your words completely. But also, I can explain this kind of mindset situation in Spain because due to Spanish language, which is pretty dominating, and the previous history, Spain has a direct access to South America, to the United States. I mean, Spain doesn't lack this market. It has it. So probably that's why it's not fighting, it's not motivating Spanish founders to stay here.
The language thing is a pain in the rear butt, if you ask me. I think it's one of the biggest disadvantages of Spanish founders is the incapacity, and I said this even on the Johnsters, which to me is still incredible. That was my biggest disappointment with being back to Spain 3 years ago, was finding that the level of English was still so pure among early stage founders on younger age, right? Or aspiring founders even. And many ways, their unwillingness to do it. So I don't care if you don't speak English, but if you don't want to try to speak English, right? And again, we don't want people to speak like Shakespeare. We want them to be able to communicate, right? So I think if you speak Spanish well, that's fantastic. That's a pure asset. But put on top of that the English. And then you are not limited. You can go wherever you want. So to me, going to Latin America, if it's because the market that makes sense, is incredible because you also have a culture understanding, a language. But don't go there just because they speak Spanish, right? And I think that has been the problem, right? I actually see the opportunities actually that most of the Latin American, or a lot of Latin American talent will love to come to Spain and making the bridge to the EU. Of course, because they have cultural affinity, language affinity. So to me, I don't want us, understanding us Spanish to go to Latam if it's necessarily good, but I want us to attract the best talent here and make it dominant into European market, and then maybe even go into the US afterwards from here, right? That's the thing where we have a power and advantage. But we really need to get out of this Spanish-only mentality. Is really, really weakening our capacity to think global.
That's the reason we launched this podcast with the help of Startup Wise guys. Yeah, Me Spanish Pitch, introducing Spanish tech ecosystem in English. My English is not perfect. I'm perfectly aware of this. I'm Ukrainian, and I was learning English from songs. My parents didn't have money to pay English courses, and also I was never afraid to communicate. And again, people understand me, so and that's why I'm keep pushing this and helping. To be understood to other people and talents globally. Let's talk about reasons to be in Spain and also some special climate for investors and also for raising company here to grow the startup. So Startup Wise guys and Spanish tech ecosystem as it is.
Well, I think infrastructure is really good, okay? So from physical infrastructure, trains, airports, connectivity is amazing. If you look at today logistic platforms, so one of the key changes in Europe is value chains. We need to have a complete change of value chains. Everything is passing through Spain, maritime, trains, airports. So there is a huge one. Infrastructure from the internet point of view, cables are having to Spain. We have probably some of the most data centers. So if you look at the entire infrastructure picture in the biggest, is great, right? That's fine. Talent is good. I think talent needs to go more into, again, we need to speak more English, but talent, the raw talent is there. The volumes are there. You can attract a lot of international talent here. There will be never an issue bringing international talent here, right? Quality of life is amazing because of that, right? So I think you can attract talent. There is already a lot of talent here. It's just raw. I think we just need to nurture it much more. We need to change the culture of it. Infrastructure is great. And I think if you look at the valuations, the pricing of all of that, it's quite low, comparatively speaking. So if you're an investor, the opportunity is there. But we need to change also the investor's mentality. We are not taking sufficient risk. I see everybody, when you get more traction, I always think, when I get more traction, this startup, they don't want to talk to you. They will probably want to talk to Index or to Acel or to Speed Invest. So I think there is very few Spanish VCs in the different stages that are A players in Europe. They might be the best player in Spain, in Series A, but they're not top tier in Europe, right? And they're acting like that. And they need to understand that maybe they need to take some more risk. Maybe they need to come a bit earlier. Maybe they need to put a bigger ticket. Maybe they need to be given a bit of support. Secondly is angels. We need way more angel investors in Spain. There is way too many people buying I always say to people, how many houses you need to make the deal, right? One for you, one for the summer, one for skiing, one for your 3 kids. Nobody in Spain has 3 kids. So that is it, 2 kids, okay? That's 5 houses. And 6th one because you want to, okay? You don't get a 7th one. Put money in a startup, put money in the venture capital, put money in funds, which is more long-term, which is more impactful. And I think long-term it also pays off financially. So I think we need to really change the financial education of allocating assets. And we need to get way more institutional money, both CVCs from corporate pension funds, regional government pension funds into the market, right? So I think the opportunity is great. I think even, I don't know, I remember when we were in with the Speed Invest, Oliver, who is probably the largest seed investor in Europe right now, pre-seed and seed investor, he says, we're looking more and more at Southern Europe as a land of opportunity in terms of both founders coming to Spain and launching great companies and Spanish founders. And we see this combination also as the greatest power. Not just, this could be like London has been, the place where there is more international founders to invest into, combined with the local talent. And I think that will make some of the greatest investment opportunities here.
What's the next for Startup Wise Guys in Spain? Top areas maybe, or ambitions overall?
Financial services and cyber are key for us here. Defense dual usage, probably, hopefully also. I really think that we have Spain has amazing defense companies 20, 30 years ago. So there is no reason. And there is a big opportunity to put back manufacturing and industrial in Spain because there is so much land available with so much infrastructure. So I think anything that has to do with that, I think is actually big, and we want to be part of that. I would say, if we say we want to do about 100 investments per year, I would love to do 10 to 15 in Spain, and to bring another 5 to 10 to Spain every year. So maybe we can make 25 totally in the country or in the Iberian Peninsula. So that will be great for us. So I would say that would say probably putting 10 to 15 million euros of investment in Spanish startups on a yearly basis in the next 2 to 3 years. That will be a big achievement, and hopefully also making Malaga a place where 20 to 30 startups, us and from others, get invested every year. So putting Malaga really as one of the second-tier non-capital hubs of Europe, and keep helping Bilbao, especially in industrial and cybersecurity, which is 2 of the areas that they are focusing on developing.
And no help to Madrid?
Madrid has its own. We will invest in Madridian, let's say, base founders if needed. But Madrid and Barcelona don't need help. The help will come from, again, being part of a bigger European economy. But I think they have their own expertise, all the corporates, etc. One is actually LPs from Madrid, LPs from Barcelona, LPs from the whole of Spain to come to us, seeing us as an opportunity to diversify from Spanish-based VCs, but also investing in Spain and European levels. I think we provide a very different diversification opportunity in early stage. And people say, early stage is too risky. I think our track record being a 3x average tells you that it's as risky as any other stage, but it's way more fun and way more impactful, I think, than any other stage.
Thank you. And in order to bridge these episodes with next one, I would like to challenge you some Spanish startups, Spanish investors, whatever you want, whoever you want, just to connect this episode with anyone who will come to the studio. I mean, people who are fascinating you, maybe some promising startups, or investor you obviously you respect.
I'll give you 3, yeah. Well, allow me to give you 4. And then you can pick up who you want. So I think you should bring Juanjo Mostazo is probably one of the most prolific angel investors in Spain, also CTO and venture partner on K-Fund. So he's in Series A, but at the same time angel investor. I think the Vizcaya government, somebody from the team, from the strategy team, maybe Ander, maybe in Olas, to me, one of the public figures, I think how the government should be supporting entrepreneurship. I think Clemente, the CEO of El Ganso, looking at a startup that is non-tech but has gone really dramatically into digital commerce and sustainability. They're actually launching a new company and how they're looking at sustainability, how they're producing in Europe. And I think it will be great Without naming, there is a couple of funds emerging. Somebody that is way more into deep tech. I think there is a number of, specifically in Barcelona, there is a couple of funds in deep tech emerging that are really working with university transfers, which I think is, again, one of the big opportunities in Spain. We have amazing universities, but this transfer of technology and commercialization is not there. And yeah, I'll give you a fifth one. Bring somebody from UCAM, to me, University Católica Murcia, the biggest private university success case coming out of a province from a guy who wanted to invest back and has created UCAM High Tech, which to me is the biggest story of investing in from a university into food tech, into life sciences, and what the ecosystem they are creating around Spain, led by Carlos Caballero, is also amazing. So there you have 5 from different provinces, different places, different angles. And maybe a 6th one, bring some sport guy, bring some footballer, some basketball guy, José Manuel Calderón, or somebody in football who is investing, maybe Piqué, if he would like to join you. I don't know if it will be easy to get him.
I'm from Real Madrid.
He likes investing. I don't care. I'm also a Real Madrid fan, but I think all of there is a, Rafa Nadal, if it was possible, Pau Gasol. There's a lot of some of the very good, well-known sports personalities here that themselves, through instruments, are also investing a lot of money back into the ecosystem. And what they say is fundamental to educate the big public. So I think there are key figures into putting back, I'm working a lot with Bernie Rodriguez, a Unicaja player, former silver medal in the Olympics, and his work on impact investment to educate and to integrate people with difficulties through sports. And also what he's doing in the embassy with José Manuel Calderón. I think is, again, another example of how regionally people listen to them. They have so much charisma, so much opportunity. And actually, Sane is working with Bernie about pitching in English. He said, Bernie, you can talk in English way better. You're good communicating, but you need a story, right? So again, is when we put all these things together, I think there is. So you have 7 nominations almost there. So.
Amazing. So hopefully this challenge will be accepted. And to wrap up this episode, inaugurational one, with Cristóbal Alonso, El Patrón, the Startup Wise Guys, Me Spanish Pitch podcast, I would like to ask you to ask yourself a question. Mm-hmm. And in December, later this year, we will measure. So what happened and what changed? Something you would like to challenge yourself with?
I think I challenge myself about, can we bring together institutional money with private money on a fund that is above 30 million, which is something we haven't managed until now. And the second one is, can we understand how the narrative of investing in defense and cyber to bring positive impact and not be seen as a force of evil, but be seen as a force of innovation. And how to come up with that narrative is the question that I ask myself in a way that is understood more. There is more and more people say, yeah, that's something we should be putting also our money and our resources on.
Let's make it happen.
Make it happen.
Thank you so much. El Patrón, Cristóbal Alonso. Aquí y ahora, in Madrid, in Google Campus for Startups. And this was the podcast Me Spanish Pitch, about tech ecosystem of Spain in English.
Thank you.
Gracias.
It's been 2 days full of energy, different people, starting startups. This event has really proven that we can really work together and come along and help each other thrive.
Thank you, Startup Wise Guys, for hosting this great event and bringing the insightful speakers we had the pleasure to listen to. Investors, if you're interested in early stage startups, please join Startup Wise Guys next time they host this kind of event. It was great.
As an investor, this event provides me the possibility of meeting the people. I generally invest in early stage startups where maybe the product is not super mature and you really have to find the connection with the team. So being able to spend some time to meet them in person is very important. If you've been on the fence about coming or not, I think this is definitely a place where your money will be well spent. You will find people who can help your business. You will find people who are in the same path as you are and will be able to share experiences. As an investor, you will really have access to a deal flow that not many places give you with this kind of one-to-one connection.